Hey everyone, this is Stove here, and yet again we have gone through another week of NFL football. Some of the great games have been played this past weekend. The time I'm shooting this is 1 o'clock, 1:12 a.m. in the morning after watching the Chargers do pretty darn good job defensively dismantling the Las Vegas Raiders. And obviously, we will talk about them here in probably like 20 minutes or so, but just getting a full rundown of what happened all this past weekend, including last Thursday's game, Packers versus Commanders. I think the Packers defense did basically what I expected them to. Honestly, I thought both sides were going to score a lot more, but I guess that's what happens defensively. You try to win those games with the defense that you have, and Micah Parsons did incredible, even though they said that they were going to probably limit him a little bit depending on how well he felt. And it seemed like he felt absolutely amazing with being able to do whatever he wanted against the young left tackle, I believe, and was able to get to Jaden Daniels as much as possible. And it definitely affected the Commanders' offense, especially for 3 straight quarters only scoring 3 points. It's pretty darn impressive for the Green Bay Packers, especially against a team that made it all the way into the NFC Conference Championship. So, pretty impressive. Obviously, it's not the same, not exactly the same team, but still, like I said last week, you have 2 absolute great teams, in my opinion, and I think in both cases, you can make that both of these teams are going to end up going into the playoffs and possibly even seeing each other again. But anyway, Jordan Love had a pretty solid game, 19 for 31, 292 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs even getting a touchdown of his own with 23 carries and 84 yards. Kraft having a spectacular game, only getting 6 receptions, but obviously was targeted way more than that, but had 124 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. The key factor of why the Green Bay Packers offense did what they did against Washington, that Tucker Kraft was able to get space and was able to work with whatever he needed to, going upfield, regardless if he was running through people, regardless if he was just trying to run what it looked like his own 40-yard dash. Jordan Love even having a solid few scrambling plays. One even showing him trucking through a defender with almost ease and proceeding to go for like maybe 3 to 4 more yards, but still pretty impressive. I give props to both teams. I actually give even more props to Jaden Daniels, because even though the guy was having problem with his knee, I believe, left knee, I believe, maybe, don't quote me on that, but I do know it's a knee. He was having problems with it, especially since he was getting chased down and even sacked a few times by Green Bay's defense, but was still able to continue to roll with the punches, and in the fourth quarter was able to actually move the ball as efficiently as they could, and the fourth quarter was absolute beautiful game. Absolute beautiful quarter by the Commanders. But it's unfortunate that Green Bay had already put a stop to what the Commanders were already trying to do originally. Now, obviously, the Commanders had lost a few other people, such as Austin Eckler, who will unfortunately be out for the rest of the season. And Jaden Daniels is now possibly not going to be able to work in week 3. We will get to that we will get to know more about that by Wednesday, maybe even Tuesday, but Wednesday or Thursday we'll know more about that, especially since the game was last Thursday, so it gives Jaden Daniels a little bit more time to recoup on the little sprained knee that he has. But props to both teams showing complete football, trying to continue. And the Commanders, obviously, with it being too late, did put up some points, but wasn't enough, obviously. But good game. Again, sounded like a broken record for this one, but good game all around for Green Bay. Commanders need to work on some stuff on their defense, just a little bit. Anyway, you got the Chargers. Just watch the Chargers. You got the Jaguars and the Bengals. Absolute class. Unfortunately, with what we all saw, if you did watch the game or if you didn't watch the game, but you were watching other games, shown that unfortunately Joe Burrow got tackled a certain strange way. A lot of Bengals fans were concerned, and some Bengals fans and some fans in general were right about how concerned that they were for Joe Burrow. Because unfortunately, Joe Burrow has gotten a grade 3 turf toe that does call for surgery and will put Joe Burrow out between 12 to 14 weeks, or from 3 months to possibly even the rest of the year out for the regular season. How do I think the Bengals will last? I do not know, but I can say that I think yesterday, or at least 2 days ago now, the Bengals defense did well enough to win this game. And at the same time, Jack Browning was able to move the ball very efficiently the very last drive, after he was given quite a few attempts before, but this very last drive he was able to push the ball down the field and was able to get one of the easiest touchdowns the Bengals will probably get at second and goal or third and goal, and just jumped himself in. And yeah, it was a very exciting game, but unfortunately a lot of people are very concerned about how the Bengals will do the rest of the season without Joe Burrow. It will be very tough, especially since Jake Browning had also thrown I believe 2 or 3 interceptions. Obviously Trevor Lawrence threw for 2 interceptions, but we were very fortunate to that our defense, front and back, were able to step up. Obviously we should have contained the run a little bit more, and we shouldn't have given up 3 touchdowns in 3 straight quarters. But then again, it's slightly better than what it was last year So, and the Jaguars were also fighting for wanting to be one of the handful or a little over a handful of teams that are now 2-0. But anyway, defense looked better. Defensive backs put on some very good showing. I think as long as those guys step up and they compete and they do what they need to do, they will have no problem with defending against the best in the quarterbacks. Hell, unfortunately, I think, well, not unfortunately, but I think the next game we have is the Vikings. I will have to look back at that. Obviously, as a Bengals fan, I should be ashamed of myself if I was wrong. But if we do have the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy was also injured, be out for 2 to 4 weeks. So we will actually be facing Mac Jones, and we faced them enough when facing New England, but their defense is also shouldn't be underestimated, the Vikings defense. At any point, if Jack throws 2 or 3 interceptions against the Jaguars DBs, or the Jaguars defensive coverage, there is a very good possibility he ends up doing the exact same thing. But I think as long as he limits himself, he stays composed, and he doesn't force too many passes, he does what he needs to do to throw it to Jamar Chase, throw it to T. Higgins, throw it to Tinsley, who actually had a spectacular first catch of his career, one-handed catch into the end zone for a touchdown, which was part of our success in winning that game. So I'm very proud for those guys, and yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing the Bengals move forward with this. Do I find it hard to see us making the playoffs? Yeah, because Joe Burrow has done a lot of amazing things, and yes, Jack Browning is a solid QB when he has to be, but at the same time, he's also fallen flat on his face just as much as any normal second-string quarterback would. So maybe we'll see what is going to be different this year. But anyway, let's move on. Cowboys and Giants. Honestly, I was thinking that the Cowboys would obviously win. Just did not think that the Cowboys were going to make that close. Russell Wilson. Oh my God. Like, we haven't seen Russell Wilson play that good, especially against the Cowboys, in a long time. 30 for 41, 450 passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. Obviously, for Dallas, though, Javonte Williams was able to do basically what he did last week and be able to rush for a good amount of yards with 18 carries. So, obviously, 15, 16 plus carries and a touchdown. Spectacular. Giants were doing all what they could, with Malik Neighbors even having 9 receptions, probably having, I think, like 14 or more targets, with 167 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. The Giants didn't want to lose. They kept on fighting and fighting and fighting, and which I respect them for that, but it also shows how it's either going to show how ass the Cowboys defense really is, whether it's rushing, whether it's passing, it doesn't matter. you're going to see the Cowboys give up a lot of points possibly this year, or you just saw what the Giants can be, how close they can be with teams like the Cowboys. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, it has to, for the Giants, it has to do probably with their defense too, giving up 40 points, especially with both teams giving up 20 plus points in the fourth quarter. So, didn't exactly do too much. Obviously, the Giants looked pretty good, being able to hold a solid lead, go into halftime 3 points ahead, and then proceeding to have to fight in the third and fourth quarter. But obviously, you're going to have that with division rivals. So give a props to both teams. The Cowboys won that pretty solidly. Lions absolutely swamped the Bears. Everyone thinking that the Lions were dead. The Lions were dead. No, not so fast. Jared Goff, 23 for 28, 334 yards, and five touchdowns. I think I'm almost for certain that the guy is leading in passing touchdowns as a QB. So, if anyone doesn't have him on their fantasy team, y'all should pick him up if he hasn't been picked up already. Or trade for him for whatever reason. Trade for him. Either that, or you can be like, well, maybe Jared Goff wouldn't do this all the time. Let me just see if I can't snag a solid player for Jared Goff, and no one bats an eye about it, because Jared Goff just did something spectacular and may or may not do it again, just because of how the Lions' offense can be, especially with their run game. Obviously, their run game got even better with Gibbs doing 12 carries, 94 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Montgomery even getting a rushing touchdown. And with all 5 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure St. I'm just going to say St. Brown. I don't know why I almost just botched his first name, but St. Brown having his own 3 receiving touchdowns. So I'm pretty sure that puts him in first place for most receiving touchdowns in the NFL. Ndunze also doing very solid, trying to put his Bears team back into it, like just continuously doing what he can. I think he's going to be something important for this Bears team if they can turn it around somehow. It is obviously very hard to do that whenever you're part of a division that had not 1, not 2, but 3 teams go into the playoffs last year. And the Bears are fighting, even though they're 0-2. It is still going to be their goal to be the team in their division, or one of the teams in their division, to make it into the playoffs, just like every other team. Solid win by Lions. I think that was the most amount of points that was won by any other team, I think, unless the Ravens have the Lions beat. I would have to look at it. Rams having a solid pull away. Tennessee Titans, you got to give it to them. They really did try their darndest. Actually, in the halftime, they had 3 points. They were 3 points ahead. But unfortunately, Matthew Stafford stayed composed, was able to throw it to Devontae Adams a few more times in the second half, and was able to get a touchdown even out of it. So with the Rams, after halftime, the Rams were able to pull away from the Tennessee Titans and be able to move on as another team who is 2-0. Solid Solid play for both teams, though. Tennessee just needs to keep it a little bit more consistent. Dolphins, obviously, they lose against a division rival, even though their quarterback played pretty well, to be honest. The only thing is, he was pressured quite a bit. Obviously, it doesn't show in his passer rating. 26 for 32, 315 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. The guy was still a menace. He still kept his team there. Obviously, they couldn't score in the first quarter, but they were still able to want that win, especially in their own hometown. So, and in their stadium. So they absolutely wanted it. Tyreek Hill had 6 catches, 106 receiving yards, but he was still mad after the game because he wanted more. He wanted the win. He wanted more catches, more targets, which you never know in like week 5 or week 6 if they are still on a losing streak. Maybe even in week 4, they'll probably see about it. Oh, look, there's a great deal. Let's send Tyreek Hill to some team that's going to have to deal with his majority of his contract. In this case, I think it's going to be hard trying to get Mike McDaniel to get back to the Dolphins, because I'm pretty sure they started having their own players meetings, and that isn't good. Okay, players meetings aren't good unless the coaches understand that those player meetings are run by smart and confident leaders who are going to show their leadership and be able to actually definitely not impose their will, but be able to raise up their players after being 0-2, losing against a division rival at home. This is just not good for the Dolphins. They gave up, I'm pretty sure they gave up over 70 points, if I'm not mistaken, just in 2 games. Defensively, this is not good. The offense did better, but if the defense was there, we would have seen a different game, hands down. Drake May played out of this world, but it would have been different if the defense for the Dolphins would have showed up. Anyway, I'm already jibber jabbering. It's already almost 23 and a half minutes in. Saints ended up losing. 49ers did pretty well. Mac Jones 26 for 39, 279 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Alvin Kamara 21 carries, 99 yards, and even quite a few passes as well. Quite a few catches as well. Jennings having actually a pretty darn good game with only having 5 catches, was able to get 89 yards and a receiving touchdown. Pretty darn good. Love to see it for the 49ers being able to stick it to a home team. And unfortunately, the Saints have lost back-to-back home games. Not exactly something that you want to see for your own team to do. And it's very much not a good start for the Saints. But at least it's a little bit different. I think the Saints would have been able to do something more if not for their miscommunication during some plays on defense and on offense. But yeah, 49ers, solid win. Bills, solid win. I think they absolutely destroyed and dismantled the Jets. Unfortunately, though, now granted, Josh Allen, 14 for 25, 148 yards, but the Bills destroyed them and dismantled their defense by the rushing game. Jared Cook, 21 carries, 132 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. And yes, you could probably tell who is one of my fantasy rushing, running backs, But unfortunately, quarterback who is also injured is Justin Fields. Don't know how long he's going to be out. I don't know personally how long he's going to be out. But with it being a concussion, could be day to day. It could end up being a full week. It could end up being more than a week and a half or 2 weeks. So without Justin Fields, they may not even be able to compete with teams, let alone win them. So that's just my opinion, unless their second string quarterback comes out looking like the next Drake May or the next Tom Brady or the next Drew Brees. So it ain't gonna really happen for the Jets in the next couple of weeks, unfortunately, especially with their defense giving up as much as they are. Seahawks able to win, battle through adversity against the Steelers defense. Very close game, but it does seem like the Seahawks were able to pull away from that Steelers defense. And Sam Darnold actually had a hell of a game, even though he threw for some interceptions, which I'm sure he can correct. And obviously he knows that he threw them, and he wants to be able, I'm sure, to be a little bit more diligent when passing the ball. Jackson Smith-Njigba did pretty well, 8 receiving catches, 103 receiving yards, no receiving touchdown, but actually Kenneth Walker was able to show who he was back in 2023 and 2020, a little bit in 2024, but more like 2022, 2023 Kenneth Walker that we've been missing. 13 carries, 105 rushing 105 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Very solid for that Seahawks team. Haven't really seen their offense do that in a while. Even with Geno Smith being there last year, you didn't exactly see too much of what the Seahawks playbook was being as efficient as it was, in my opinion, the pass run type playbook for the Seahawks back in 2022 and 2023. It was pretty good, but unfortunately very predictable for teams such as the Steelers in the last few years to easily take care of, but was able to keep the Steelers offense from scoring less or as much as just 3 points, only in the fourth quarter, and even intercepting Aaron Rodgers a couple of times too. Now you got the Ravens and the Browns. Ravens were kind of slow, so I was kind of thinking, with it being 10-3 at halftime, maybe the Browns may have something up their sleeve. Nope. The only thing that they had up their sleeve was a Joker card. So usually you're not necessarily wanting those too often unless it's blackjack. But Lamar Jackson, 19 for 29, 225 passing yards, and 4 passing touchdowns. He had some rushing yards here and there too, but 4 passing touchdowns, only just because Derrick Henry was held to, I think, 10 yards, 10 or 20 yards, maybe less. I mean, that's pretty good that the Browns were able to do that, but still getting cooked all over by Lamar Jackson. Still not exactly the best thing that you want to see. Colts and Broncos, absolute classic. Unfortunately, the game ended up turning into a Broncos win, from a Broncos win to a Colts win, and isn't exactly the best thing you wanted to see with a Broncos defensive player using the center or lineman for leverage by pushing them down and pushing them up to block the kick at a 60-yard field goal, which some people would probably be saying, why would you do that? It is a 60-yard field goal, and even if he does make it, it's very impressive, but you're usually thinking, this is a 60-yard field goal. He shouldn't be able to kick this without the wind doing something to mess with this ball. Well, the only thing that messed with that ball was the wind, but also the penalty that was on the Broncos for 15 yards, pushing the Colts to a 45-yard field goal, and was made with ease and was able to put the Colts at 2-0. They haven't been 2-0 in several years, which was, I believe, back with Andrew Luck. So it's kind of unfortunate that it's been that long for the Colts. Well, actually, no, it wasn't Andrew Luck. It was Peyton Manning, because I think they said like 2014. But Daniel Jones still played well. Bo Nix played well. Jonathan Taylor running around like a madman, 25 carries, 165 rushing yards. Even receivers that aren't even top 3 route receivers, but Franklin was able to get 8 catches, 89 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. But again, it was a good back and forth game. Ended off in a field goal. Pretty incredible, though. I do think the Broncos and the Colts, if they keep on playing like this, no doubt they're going to be making it to the playoffs. I know it's the beginning of the season, and even teams like the Dolphins have a chance to turn it around. But I do see the Colts and the Broncos keeping this momentum with their coaching staff the way they are, the players that they've been able to build around the team. The Colts defense looks phenomenal. The Broncos defense looks phenomenal. Both offenses have incredible chemistry with one another. It is going to be no doubt that both of these teams are going to end up making playoffs. Mark my words on that. Cardinals putting the Panthers to 0-2. Both of them had some pretty good fight. Panthers had a very good fight in the second half. Cardinals ended up putting most of their points on the first half, not scoring a single time in the fourth quarter, but at the same time, you got to hand it to Bryce Young. 35 for 55, 326 passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns. Not a lot of running for both sides of the ball. Hell, even Kyle Murray didn't run the ball that much. But at the same time, they were able to contain Kyle Murray and have him pass. But Carolina Panthers doing the exact same thing. You would have thought that the Carolina Panthers would have won that game, or ended up winning that game, because Carolina seemed to have been getting controlled by the Panthers defense, in my opinion. But you see that those golden opportunities. Bryce Young is showing that he still can do something, but there is still a lot of holes in their offensive game, being only able to score 3 points in the first half. Obviously, every team can have their slow starts in games, but still, 3 points in the first half. Need to do better. But defensively, you guys gave up 20 points in the first half, then gave up 7 points in the third quarter, did pretty well in the fourth quarter, but because you guys had already done so bad, well, I wouldn't say so bad, but you guys already gave up so many points just in the last 3 quarters, it unfortunately was not enough for Bryce Young, even though he had a career game, to still not be able to get the win. But Bryce Young is still young, and the Panthers team may be able to turn it around. But Arizona Cardinals, good job making you guys one of the a little over a handful of teams to be 2-0. Eagles had a solid back and forth game against the Chiefs. Defense looked good, offense looked good. They tried to still contain Saquon Barkley, which I think as long as you don't give Saquon Barkley over 100 rushing yards, you can kind of say that you did your job, not to its fullest extent, but to a good amount. Travis Kelce only getting 4 catches and 61 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes still not doing that good. A little over 50% on the completion, but only 187 passing yards and a passing touchdown. I think Jalen Hurts had obviously a passing touchdown himself, I think. But pretty standard stuff between the Chiefs and the Eagles. Both had a pretty solid offense and defense going into it, and now the Chiefs, for the first time since 2014, is starting 0-2. And that was actually the first year that Andy Reid ended up starting head coaching the Kansas City Chiefs. Falcons was able to dominate the Vikings. I'm pretty sure last week I said that the Vikings were end up going to win. But don't be surprised that Falcons team's defense was going to give J.J. McCarthy a bit of trouble, which they did. J.J. McCarthy ended up throwing 2 interceptions, went for 11 and 21, 158 passing yards. But like I said at the beginning of the video, J.J. McCarthy is going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks. So with the Vikings quarterback, I think, being Carson Wentz, they're going to hopefully think of some ways to do more with Justin Jefferson. Even though he had 81 yards, still had 3 catches with I don't know how many targets he was supposed to have, but geez, I mean, Vikings offense clearly was the problem, and the Falcons were able to capitalize on every turnover that they could get, and pretty solid win against the Falcons. Don't sleep on this Falcons defense, because if you do, you'll probably end up like the Vikings. The only thing I can say is, if you continue to truck through and you guys have the endurance, you guys will beat the Falcons. But the Falcons defense and offense continues to get better and continues to learn from their mistakes, even in just week 2. So who knows where this Falcons team may be by the end of the season. Tampa Bay ended up doing a fantastic job, like being able to try and score almost every single quarter. Their defense gave up 10 points in the first quarter and gave up 9 in the fourth quarter, doing well. So they ended up going into halftime with 4 points up. So good for Tampa. But at the same time, I just gotta give props to Baker Mayfield. He is, in my opinion, a top three quarterback in the NFC. Obviously, realistically, you can say, okay, well, he's actually like 6th or top 5 in the NFC. In my opinion, this just shows that he is a top 3 quarterback. Other than Jalen Hurts, who I think can outplay Baker Mayfield just because of his athleticism compared to Baker Mayfield. And in my opinion, just only because of the just because of the chemistry with the team, I think Jared Goff outplays Baker Mayfield just by quite a bit, just because of different ways of the offense being. But still, Baker Mayfield doing a fantastic job keeping the drive alive on his feet, scrambling for God, I don't know how many yards just to get a first down, and then proceeds to work with his companion, with his dog, with his guy, his if it's not the receivers, it's his number one guy in Bucky Irving, who I think is going to absolutely have so much more opportunity this year than he did last year, being that number one RB guy, doing insane plays, getting first downs, and continuously moving that ball more and more down the field. It's unfortunate that he didn't it's unfortunate that he didn't get the touchdown, but what can you say? At the end of the day, Buccaneers still were able to pull out the win, and no harm, no foul. Baker Mayfield still one of, if not the best comeback quarterbacks in the last 8 years, 7 to 8 years. Obviously, you could argue that, well, Tom Brady was there, and a couple other quarterbacks could have been arguably better. But at the same time, in my opinion, no one has done this more efficiently than Baker Mayfield, other than maybe Patrick Mahomes. But besides that, Baker Mayfield is the guy right now for Tampa Bay, and their chemistry is so strong that you could give them the arguable bet of, now that may not make sense, but you could give them a bet saying, well, I think Tampa Bay has a better chance of making the Super Bowl than 28 of these other teams. 28 other teams in the NFL. Which, in that case, I would say, cool, awesome. I agree with you. Just the way that they play, just the way that they never give up. Obviously, with Houston dropping down to 0-2, that is a huge problem. But with Baker Mayfield keeping the ball and fighting through adversity, regardless of what Houston was throwing at him, he still was able to win that game. But Houston, 0-2, I'm sure they're not the favorites anymore. So you got the Colts running the AFC South. Yeah, you got the Colts running the AFC South now. Simple as that. And I like it. Actually, I love it. So, be that as it may, Houston, either, switch it around a little bit. Don't give up 6 points at the last 2.5 minutes. Even if it's against Baker Mayfield, even if it's against Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, don't give up a touchdown. Simple as that. Now, granted, it can be harder than what I'm describing it to be, obviously, but Houston, you guys blew a lead. Simple as that. You guys just need to be a little bit better offensively, a little bit better defensively. Obviously, you guys did sack Baker Mayfield 4 times. Baker Mayfield did have what he had, a passing game, and even CJ Stroud had a decent passing game, but I think it could have gotten a lot better for Houston. But that defense was able to hold front for 2 straight quarters and didn't let them get more than 10 points in the quarters that they scored points. The Houston Texans scored points in. Chargers, obviously, they did what they needed to do. In every quarter that the Raiders scored in, they were held by 3. They were just held to 3 points. So good on Justin Herbert playing fantastic ball. 19 for 27, 242 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Giving the ball to really whoever was open, because there was quite a few people that were able to make an impact just to get some solid first downs, just to get a touchdown was amazing to see. But just Chargers, keep on doing what you're doing offensively and defensive. Chargers, you guys made Geno Smith look pathetic. I'm sorry to say that. Geno Smith, you did solid last week, but I figured there was still some flaw in your throwing game, and the Chargers pretty much showed what that was. And when you get under pressure, it's hard for you not to either take that sack or to throw the ball up in the air and hope that your receiver that you're trying to throw to isn't in double coverage. But almost every other time that you threw it to a wide receiver, they were double coverage, or they got almost blasted off the play almost instantly. So maybe you guys can work a little bit more. Obviously, the defense of the Raiders did hold them to 20, so not necessarily too bad, but still Raiders offense. You guys need to probably even get Ashawn Jetty into the game a little bit more, whether it's to pass it off, work on some screenplays to open up your offense a little bit more, give more of variety for Ashawn Jetty and even Brock Bowers to work with. Now, obviously, Brock Bowers probably didn't do that much just because he was coming off of an injury that he was dealing with from last week. But still, Raiders just got dominated like I thought that they would. Chargers defense looked pretty dominant. And again, like I said, Justin Herbert threw for a very solid game. Quentin Johnston even had a solid game with even only catching 3 of his, only getting 3 of his catches, but 71 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown is pretty good for Johnston. And you got Ladd McConkey, you got Keenan Allen. Just the Chargers have something that the Raiders don't. And in my opinion, that is weapons for Justin Herbert. Maybe you can make the argument that the last 5 years he hasn't had efficient weapons just because of injury or just because of the lack of weapons that were on the field that were provided to him. But now, since you have a young running back that can do whatever he needs to do, by the way, Hampton blocked like it was his life was on the line. I mean, he was giving some good space to help make plays, and even though those were little pieces of that puzzle for each individual play, that still ended up giving Justin Herbert the ability to throw for a passing touchdown or to make first down plays. So appreciate that, Hampton, and especially if you keep on doing that, I'm sure you're going to be given more opportunities to play or to get the ball more, and hopefully it's not you turning into just an RB2 with a anger issue. So anyway, you guys, that was the reviews for every single game that happened this past week or weekend for week 2 of the NFL. Obviously, this is getting to a little over 50 minutes by the time I end this. And yes, if I wasn't probably jibber jabbering about the first few games, it'd probably be like 35 minutes, which I know you guys probably viewed that more than you guys would view these 50 something long videos. But again, regardless, I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate you possibly even clicking that like button and sharing it with your friends and being able to subscribe, because it grows my channel. I want to also grow with you guys as much as possible, so just comment down below as well and let me know what I didn't get to with one of or a few of the games that maybe you guys saw something that I didn't. But yeah, this was reviews for NFL Week 2. I will see you guys later. Peace.